Next question. Is my idea worth starting? How do I know? This is a big one, happens all the time. And let me just set this up for you, Will. We have founders that come and they're already way sold out on their idea. They've YOLO'd in 150K of their retirement funds or what they were all saving, and nobody cares. And they come and they're desperate. And so this question, is my idea even worth starting? Is it worthy of a startup? How do I know? What would you say to those founders?
I always say I want to segment this into two questions. Is it worth me starting anything? And then what's the value of this idea? Okay, so bear with me, because a lot of times we connect them together. Sure. It's not worth me starting something unless the idea is good. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You'll lose every time on that. You'll lose every time. There's almost 0% chance that when you first have an idea, it's the perfect version of an idea.
Exactly.
It almost can't be, because no one's seen it yet, right? You haven't play tested it yet. So now, like when I build businesses or build products, etc., I don't try to build, quote, the right idea. Instead, what I do is I say, let me get the ball rolling toward the right idea, okay? The ball rolling toward the right idea would mean like I'm putting up a quick mock-up and I just want to see how people use it. I'm adding a couple features and I want to see if people use it. I'm telling people about it. I'm not even building anything. I'm telling people about it and I want to see how they respond. I've learned after so many attempts that you can't build the right product out of the gates, but you can build toward the right product. So when I'm bifurcating that question, the first thing is, if you're ready to start something, go start something. But don't start it because you think you have exactly the right idea. Start it because you want to get toward the right idea and you're willing to start this discovery.
That's a great process, taking that first step, because, Will, you and I both know what ends up happening is, sure, you can get something started, but you've probably iterated so many times. And then even so, let's say you do get something started, it might not become a startup. It might not be something that you want to spend the next 10 years, raise VC, like totally mortgage your life into. You might end up at the end of it going, not really.
Everything I've ever started that was successful started as something totally unintentional. And it took me a while to get it. Now I work with thousands of startups and I just see that it happens everywhere. So I understand why that's the way. But when I was first starting out, I didn't have any context. I just assumed the way an idea works is you have a genius idea. It's so good that when you introduce it to the market, they just eat it up and it takes off. And bad ideas, that doesn't happen. Bad ideas just die and good ideas just take off instantly. That happens never. It's never. That is not the way good ideas work. Let me go back. In a previous question, we were talking about my old co-founder, Jamie Siminoff from Ring, right? Before Jamie started Ring, the doorbell company, I remember sitting with him in my basement. He was in town. He was staying over, right? And he was showing me an earlier version of it. It was called Doorbot at the time. Okay. And I remember being like, dude, this is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. and to be fair, it was. At the time, it was. And Jamie's a smart guy. Like, I think he agreed. Here was the idea. The idea is that when someone rings the doorbell, you'll get a text message on your phone because you can't hear the doorbell. And I'm like, how many people aren't hearing their doorbell or responding? Like, how much foot traffic are people getting that they need this constant hotline of who's at the door? I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, right? But let's stick with that, okay? Jamie knew enough. That was like his sixth business, right? Jamie knew enough that it didn't have to be this idea. It had to be the path toward an idea, of which this was a step. When I started Startups.com, incidentally around the same time, at that point, I'd given up on finding the right idea. I'd given up. I'd be like, you know what? Right ideas don't exist. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a premise. My premise is that founders need a ton of help and they don't know where to get it. And my journey is going to be, I'm going to figure out how to help them somehow. And I had 900 ways that could have worked, and it wound up becoming Startups.com. But I think what worked for me is I said, I want to solve that problem, and I let that take me on a journey.
Let me unpack that, because I think that's so key. You said something that resonated with me. It's like, if you're going to start something, just get started on something. But you also just shared, it's helpful, and I would say these days sort of imperative, start with the problem. Like, just commit to the problem. And I know founders are so obsessed. I got another story, another great founder. He's got VCs chasing him, etc. He started off, and he knows if he hears this, he's going to know, because we went through this whole process together. He started off saying, I'm going to find a better way to get people headshots and for a company for their LinkedIn. So he was doing this thing with WeWork and everything. And that evolved to people giving him feedback saying, I like the fact coming here and get pictures. I want distribution. He was like, maybe I can distribute pictures. And then he said, maybe weddings. And then it just kept going and going and going. And now he has a funded company. He's got VC backing, everything like that. To your point, looks nothing like that whatsoever. But he started off with the problem and he started moving in that direction.
You bet. So when people saying, is my idea worth starting? I'm going to tell you no. Because by definition, the way this works is whatever your idea is, it's the wrong version of the idea and the right version is somewhere out there. You got to commit to wanting to start the process of discovery. And eventually, if things go well, you'll find the right idea, and maybe not. But there's a 0% chance you already have the right idea, and only time will tell you otherwise.
What would you say, Will, is the percentage of ideas that actually get to the final stage? Let's say, funded or making money.
Yeah.
How many iterations or how many ideas have you started up until that point?
I think for most folks, it's not that they start lots of ideas. It's they start lots of iterations of the idea.
Got it.
They have an idea that says, I think the world's going to want cheaper hamburgers. I'm talking about McDonald's, right? I think the world's going to want cheaper hamburgers, and I'm going to try 20 different ways to do it till eventually I find something people are willing to eat at a price point they're willing to pay. Right. So in my mind, starting a company isn't about the idea. It's about the process of discovery. The problem is most people have no idea that that's how it actually works. So the way they go into it's way different.
I appreciate the breakdown. That was a good one.